I'm Scott Conant. You may know me as one of the rotating judges on Chopped. Today we are going to make spaghetti aglio olio, spaghetti with garlic and olive oil. This is one of those dishes that is the foundation of Italian cooking, pasta making in particular. Without spaghetti aglio olio, there is no spaghetti with clams. Without spaghetti aglio, without aglio olio, without this sauce of garlic and olive oil, there's not a lot of things that you see inside the repertoire of Italian food. So I think it's one of those dishes that is super important to learn how to make the right way. This is an oil-based sauce, aglio, olio, garlic, oil. I have some garlic here. I've crushed and I'm taking out of the skin. We will slice it very thin, add it to the pan with extra virgin olive oil, a little bit of crushed red pepper. We're gonna toss the pasta inside of that and add some fresh parsley. It is the most simple, the most straightforward pasta that there is. However, because of its simplicity, it is really important to be able to identify every single step the right way and get full extraction of flavor from each one of those steps. So this is what we do. We have a pot of water that we have on the fire. It's come to a boil. I have salt. We're gonna add enough salt so this tastes like broth. Very important part. We don't want it to taste any stronger than broth. We don't want that salt content to be overpowering. We're gonna use this in the sauce of the pasta itself, inside the spaghetti aglio olio. That's why we want it to taste with such a neutral flavor profile. Inside this pan is very, it's just getting lightly warm. I don't want it to be hot. It's a very low flame underneath of it, underneath the pan itself. We are gonna, so what I wanna do to start this, I'm gonna slice this garlic very thin. Super, super thin. And I wanna get this right. I'd rather take the time to make sure that every step is the right way than drop the pasta in, try to chop it up in time, try to get the garlic to the perfect temperature, possibly overcook the pasta. So you really want to take your time with this pasta and make sure that every step is done the right way. I have 3 cloves of garlic here, sliced very, very thin. Extra virgin olive oil, a good amount of oil. This is only oil, garlic, crushed red pepper, pasta. A little bit of salt, a little bit of parsley. I mean, it's really, really that simple. So you see the pan is starting to get, you get that little ripple of heat there. We're gonna add the garlic directly to that. I want us to flip our cutting board over so that we can chop the parsley when the time comes. And in this parsley, I just want to use the leaves. So as this garlic is heating up and starting to cook, we're just going to take our moment and make sure we get all these beautiful leaves of the parsley together and to be ready to chop just before we put it in the pan. So flat leaf parsley, very important to have Italian parsley here, not curly parsley. There's much better flavor in this parsley than in the curly stuff. So the garlic is starting to sizzle a touch. I'm going to add a pinch of crushed red pepper here. You can add as much crushed red pepper as you'd like. I like my pasta a little bit spicy, so I'm going to go a little heavy on it. Of course, there's degrees of spice with this crushed red pepper because it seems the longer it sits, the spicier it gets. I have the parsley here ready to be chopped, all these beautiful leaves. I'm gonna drop the pasta in the pasta water right now. And again, this pasta water, I have about ½ a pound here. So for about 3 people, give or take. Pair of tongs to make sure that that pasta is submerged underwater. All right, I'm gonna turn this flame up and I really wanna be careful with this. It is very important. You get that little sizzle happening here. As soon as it starts to get brown on the exterior of that garlic, I'm going to add the pasta cooking liquid directly to this and cook that garlic in the water. For two things. It's going to stop the browning of the garlic. You don't want it to get too brown because then it becomes really kind of tough on the digestion. It'll repeat itself. And the other reason is it's going to tenderize and continue to cook that garlic out. So it still has that beautiful garlic flavor, but it's not as harsh, right? So you see it's starting to turn brown. I'm going to pull it out. Boom. Just like that. And I do that off the fire, if you notice, because I don't want it to splatter and flame up. And if it does splatter and flame up like that, we'll have to start it over because it will completely change the flavor profile of what this garlic is. This is such a simple, straightforward dish that any imperfection, anything done incorrectly, will completely ruin the simplicity of it. Now, it's also important to point out when you're cooking this dish that there is absolutely no cheese to be added to a spaghetti aglio olio. It's an oil-based sauce, and any aged cheese, particularly Parmesan cheese or Pecorino or anything like that, just doesn't go with the oil-based sauce. So it's important that if you're going to do anything with this, you would add toasted breadcrumbs on top of it, something along those lines, but not cheese. Cheese doesn't belong with spaghetti aglio olio. In the meantime, I am going to chop up this parsley. I have this Italian parsley, the leaves all bunched up together like this. I'm holding them together, if you notice. And what I'm going to do is just really chiffonade this, nice and thin in a saw-like motion. I'm going to chop this parsley, and you can smell it as you're chopping it. It is so fresh and so grassy. I really feel like parsley is one of the most absolutely underrated herbs. It is such a beautiful essence and perfume. So if I were to make spaghetti clams, for example, I would add the clams right now to this dish. So the garlic is cooking away, the pasta's cooking away. This is about a 9.5, 10-minute cook time on the pasta. I'm going to cook this pasta about 90% of the way in this boiling salted water. And then I'm going to finish it with this garlic sauce. And what you'll see is this beautiful extraction of starch, which is mixed with the liquid from the pasta water and the extra virgin olive oil. And it's really going to create this beautiful sauce, which is going to coat every single strand of the pasta. So that's cooking nicely. Pasta's almost done. I can smell just the light toast on the garlic itself. Just that little hint of brown on the outside, and then let it cook the rest of the way with the pasta cooking liquid. You can smell the toast. It really permeates the oil and the water, and it's just a really good flavor profile to start with. All right. So you see that pasta is about 3/4 of the way of where it needs to be. I know that this is about 3/4 of the way of where it needs to be by the way it's falling on the tong. So if you notice, it still has a little bit of width on the outside. If it were more cooked, the color would be a little lighter, and also it would fall a little closer to the fingers. So you see it's kind of broad there. So it just needs a little more time. Good stuff. So again, if I were making spaghetti vongole, spaghetti with clams, I would add the clams right now, cover this dish, let the clams cook in the shell, of course, and then finish the pasta with those clams, kind of let them all intermingle. And again, the flavor of the clam and the garlic oil pasta cooking liquid would be absorbed into the pasta. And also the pasta would release that starch and thicken it all up together. A lot of people add wine to clams with pasta. I'm not a big fan. I don't like the acidity. There's always that potential that the wine won't cook out. So there's no wine in this dish either. Spaghetti. Of course, you could empty it out like this. So you see that it's cooking together. It's absorbing all that beautiful garlic oil, all the crushed red pepper, all the flavor that was in that oil. It's all cooking up together. If you don't have the ability to toss the pasta like that, it's all good. I like to do it because it also, the way it's so vigorous in the pan, it extracts more starch from the pasta. So if you don't want to flip it, you could just turn it and manipulate it just like we're doing by stirring it directly with the spoon and the flick of a wrist and all that stuff. So it's cooking down. Again, there's a release of the starch from the pasta. This is one of those classic, simple Italian pastas that should be in everyone's repertoire. So it's starting to come together. You can see how that pasta, how the oil is being absorbed. I'm sorry, how the liquid is being absorbed into the pasta. You see that the oil is starting to separate from the sauce itself. So I want to cook this a little more. I'm going to add a little more pasta cooking liquid. So again, you see how all that pasta, how that starchy, delicious broth, that pasta cooking liquid is really cooking into the pasta itself. And there's a release, again, a release of that starch, which is going to help form the sauce to coat every single strand of the pasta itself. We don't want the pasta down on the plate and then all this sauce kind of around the plate that's like a little guazzetto, like a little splashy sauce that's just too much liquid on the plate itself. We want the integrity of the pasta to be coated with the sauce. All right, fresh parsley. I know when to add the parsley because the pasta I could tell that it's almost cooked. I'm gonna add a little bit more of the pasta water. Again, you can see how it's all coming together here, right? It's starting to become a little bit starchy. The parsley is so fresh, it almost turns everything green inside the pasta. That's what you want. You see that the way the oil is coating everything here? We want to make sure that all that starch is out of the pasta and all the pasta is cooked nicely. Let me taste a bit. That's where we're living, right there. That is exactly the texture of the pasta that we want. It's a little bit toothsome, has a really nice resistance, but it's still, you can eat it very nicely. Touch more. I'm gonna add one last sprinkle of salt because I think it needs it. And this is one of those things. Look at that beautiful liquid just coming off the bowl. Oh, this is like, I love Italian food and I love pasta. And the reason I love pasta is because of this simplicity, because you could take something with 4 ingredients and make it absolutely spectacular. When I eat this pasta, really good quality pasta itself, has great integrity, beautiful flavor, has a great salt content. It's not overly salted. You get the layer of garlic, you get the little bit of spice, you get the freshness of the parsley. It's such a nice balance inside of this dish. See, there's not too much sauce. Obviously, the pasta itself is coated, and also there's not too much residual oil on the plate itself. I don't want to pat myself on the back, but this is pretty good. Not bad. Not bad for an American guy. Cheers.